All right, gang, so our first segment on the NFL Kyro cast is going to be our pre-season predictions. I'm going to be ranking every team from 32 to 1. It's just my opinion, of course. If you think I am just the stupidest person in the world, please let me know. Write a comment right now and tell me how stupid I am, how much I don't know football. I welcome the hate. I do. How am I ever going to get better if you don't tell me that I'm wrong, you know? Throw back to that Najee Harris take. That one was infamous. I got so much slander. The Kyronia Discord flamed me for weeks on end for putting Najee Harris in C tier as far as running backs go. And I admitted, after thinking about it more, yeah, that was a bad take. For the most part, I tend to stick by my takes. But if something's just blatantly wrong, if I'm just ignorant about something, I'm usually good about admitting that and changing. But all right. Let's go ahead and get into it, gang. So, the number 32 team, the worst team in the NFL, in my opinion, is the Houston Texans. This team is just so bad. I literally cannot think of a single bright spot on this team, apart from, like, maybe Brandon Cooks. And even still, he's good, but he's not that good. At least we don't get to see him be that good, whether that's a true testament to his skill ceiling or just not having a good team around him. I think they drafted that LSU defensive back, which is a good move, but not nearly enough to lift them up from being the worst team in the league.
I definitely think the Texans are pretty awful. They're like the opposite of well-rounded.
Are there any groups on the Texans that are not relatively bad? But basically, to sum all that up, Davis Mills for MVP.
Davis Mills for MVP.
MVP. I love it. Number 31, I've got the New York Jets. As much as I love the MILF Hunter himself, Zach Wilson is still not proven that he's a good NFL quarterback, and the rest of the team isn't that good either. Not much to say here. I do think Zach Wilson's going to improve a little bit, but I think the Jets are still going to be awful.
They're going to be bad. I've heard Zach Wilson's actually progressing from his injury, so he may start week 1. Who knows? If he starts week 1, he's going to try to throw a shovel pass and get picked. Joe Flacco starts week 1. He's going to throw bombs and get picked.
I honestly completely forgot. I didn't even realize Joe Flacco was still playing in the NFL. I really forgot that. Man. At number 30, I've got the New York Giants. Listen, they're the Giants, okay? They got a couple of good pieces, but Saquon Barkley is yet to prove that he can stay healthy under a heavy workload, and the rest of the Giants are yet to prove that they can have any success without leaning on Saquon Barkley under a heavy workload. So Daniel Jones has shown some flashes of mediocrity, but most of the time he seems to just be cranking out turnovers. Danny Dimes, baby. I don't blame it all, or even most of the offense's problems on Daniel Jones. I think he's fighting a very steep uphill battle with what he's got. But regardless, whatever the culprit, he hasn't been able to give them any success, and I don't see that changing this season.
With the Giants, I've got two things. With the New York Giants. One is Kenny Galladay's effort. 2, Saquon Barkley's health. If Kenny Galladay puts in work and Saquon Barkley stays healthy, which he hasn't stayed healthy in, feels like forever now.
Like 3 years plus?
Yeah, I think the Giants could actually surprise people. They're not going to win their division. They're not going to make the playoffs. But I think if those two guys stay healthy, I don't really want to just say, oh, the Giants are going to suck. I think the Giants aren't going to be good, but we'll see. We'll see if Saquon can stay healthy.
I agree with you that the Giants have the potential and the pieces in place to have the ability to surprise people and do a lot better than 30th in the league. But this is based on what I think will happen, and I think the Giants are just going to suck again and be under a lot of misfortune. Moving on to number 29, let me tell you a little story about the Seattle Seahawks. Now listen, my girlfriend and soon-ish-to-be fiance is a massive, diehard Seattle Seahawks fan. Her dad's family is from Seattle, so by association, I am somewhat of a Seahawks fan because she's my girlfriend. And it's really cool to have a girlfriend that's super into football. So on the record, I would label them as my second favorite team in the league. Whether that statement be required by law or not is neither here nor there. She knows that we're doing the show, and she knows about this segment. She said, please, I had already set the rankings for the teams, but she said to me, she was like, please just don't let them be in the 30s. Just let them be in the 20s. And I actually already had them at 29. So I didn't change this. I promise. I already had it set. I'm not a simp. Okay, I'm not a simp. I already had them at 29. All right. I'm a huge DK Metcalf stan. I absolutely love DK Metcalf. I've always been a DK Metcalf fan ever since those pictures of him in college looking like Superman were circulating the internet. I really like Tyler Lockett as well. I think they got a really good receiving core. Regardless, though, I think the writing is kind of on the wall for this team. They've downgraded from probably a top 5 quarterback in the league in Russell Wilson to Drew Lock, who I actually don't even think is starting now. I think they gave the starting job to Geno Smith, who was already on the roster, so they didn't even get a quarterback back from losing Russell Wilson. As well as losing their Hall of Fame middle linebacker in Bobby Wagner, who is the biggest key piece on that defense. Not to mention Chris Carson, who started last season as the RB1, retired.
Yeah, that was a bummer.
Yeah, he retired after an injury-ridden last few seasons. The Seahawks are just down bad. Realistically, they could be the worst team in the league, especially with the tough division they're in. They're in a really hard division.
Gosh.
But even still, I don't want to drop a team with a receiving core like with DK Metcalf and a coaching staff with so much experience with success over the past decade. Despite everything against them, I don't want to put a team with that in their deck of cards down to the very, very bottom. So I'm being as nice as I can here, putting the Seahawks at 29.
I've got the Seahawks a little higher, but not by much. This is exactly where I thought you were going to put Seattle, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. When you say they're in a tough division and you're not really sure if the quarterbacks can handle it, I'm with you. They lost Bobby Wagner to the Rams. They lost him to a divisional rival, which is pretty wild. Russ isn't even the only piece that's gone.
Not only is it a new team, it is so much worse of a team.
They're definitely worse.
Moving on to number 28, my pick for the 28th best/4th worst team in the league. I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, they had a lot of unnecessary drama last year with the absolute fiasco that was Urban Meyer at head coach. They weren't likely to be a decent team before all that garbage went down, but that only sealed their fate and likely worsened it a large amount. I expect them to at least be somewhat of a step above what they were last season. I still think Trevor Lawrence is a really good football player, and I think he could be solid, if not great, as a quarterback in this league. I don't necessarily think he'll have a major breakout year, but I think this will be a step in the right direction compared to where the Jaguars have been recently.
I actually think the Jacksonville Jaguars will improve. I'm glad that Travis Etienne is back. Christian Kirk, they gave Christian Kirk a lot of money. We'll see if he plays up to that contract. I think they will end up improving by the end of the season, and it'll be a slow progression.
At number 27, I have the Atlanta Falcons. Fun little tidbit for you, a little story from the early Kyrogus days. When I was a child, my favorite team was not the Falcons, but my second favorite team was the Atlanta Falcons, and I will give you one guess as to why. Dar, go.
Ooh, I don't know. Gosh, that's a toughie.
No, it's not. It's super easy.
If I could guess, maybe it's because of the color scheme. I don't know. Just a guess.
You are 100% correct. They are red and black. Their logo looks cool. Absolutely love the Falcons. Now, talking about their actual team, they just don't have anything really anymore that I like. Calvin Ridley, how long is he? Is he still suspended for how long?
Calvin Ridley is going to be suspended for the entire 2022 season. He's
I forgot.
Suspended for the whole dang thing.
I forgot they gave him the entire year. So
yeah,
I don't want to get into like super controversial
wild
stuff on the show that much. I mean, this isn't that controversial, but he bet like what $1,500 on his own
$1,500
on his own team to win in a game that he wasn't playing. He literally was just putting a fair that's literally like toilet paper to an NFL player. He bet on his own team to win in a game that he wasn't playing in, so he couldn't possibly affect the outcome in any way, positively or negatively. And he got suspended for a year. I think that's one of the dumbest things ever. I think NFL players shouldn't bet on games. And so I understand some punishment being for that, even if he did absolutely nothing wrong when you actually think about it. But the entire season is crazy, especially, again, not going to get into controversial stuff. But compared to some of the other punishments we've seen around the league recently for things that are infinitely worse than betting chump change on your own team to win in a game you're not playing, I think that's crazy. I don't have that much to say about the Falcons. They're down bad. They don't even have their quarterback from last year. Their quarterback now is Marcus Mariota, who hasn't started in the league in 6 years? Probably not that long.
Thanks for reminding me who their quarterback was. I actually forgot.
I did too. I started talking and I was like, who even is their quarterback?
Felipe Franks is QB1.
Felipe.
Frank,
I think the Falcons are just going to be bad. I still really like them. I want to see them succeed. Mariota's got to be the second coming of Michael Vick on the Falcons if they want to have any chance of having a freaking 500 season.
Yeah.
Number 26, I've got the Chicago Bears. Now, I actually like the Bears and what they're doing. I still think they're going to be bad, but I think they have built a lot of pieces to be getting better each season. I think they're going to be better than they were last year for the most part. I just think they're still not going to be that good. Mainly is Justin Fields is a young quarterback who I think has a lot of talent and a lot of potential to be really good, but it is extremely hard for any quarterback, especially a young quarterback, to win when you have a crappy offensive line. I think they tried to build it a little bit, but still didn't get that much. Is Roquan Smith still on that team? I heard talks that he was moving somewhere.
He is still a Bear as of right now, but he requested a trade.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So let's speed it up a little bit and move on to a fun one. At number 25, I've got the Cleveland Browns. Now,
A fun one indeed.
I'm gonna try not to go into controversy, so I'll speak kind of tongue in cheek around the details of some of the drama surrounding this team. The Cleveland Browns had one of the loudest off seasons of any team in the league, mostly because of the massive controversy surrounding the acquisition of Deshaun Watson. I don't want to get into any of the controversy stuff, but he got a massive contract while being under fire for some very serious allegations. It was probably the biggest story of the entire offseason. I can't think of anything else I heard more about. Long story short, the Browns' starting quarterback is suspended for the first 11 games of the season, and on top of that 11-game suspension, he hasn't even played in essentially 2 years as it is. The Browns' previous starting quarterback in Baker Mayfield has been shipped off to Carolina, and there's just so much controversy and drama surrounding the team, which I think almost always makes it very difficult for a team to find much success, especially on a team that was already struggling. It's one thing if you have drama surrounding a team that has a history of overcoming adversity, but a team like the Browns, which is one of the most historically bad franchises in the league, I don't see them overcoming something like that, especially when their starting quarterback isn't going to be back till week 11 or 12. They did pick up Amari Cooper, who I can give a massive first-hand account to being a great wide receiver. I think he's a top 3 route runner in the league, honestly. I don't know if a lot of people would say that. I think as far as route runners go, I think I'd put Keenan Allen and maybe Stephon Diggs, maybe Cooper Kupp above him, maybe. But I think Amari Cooper, as far as strict route running, is one of the absolute best of the best in the whole world of football. They also have Nick Chubb, who, in my opinion, is a top 5 running back in the league, maybe even top 3. I know a lot of people wouldn't say that either, but honestly, I love Nick Chubb. I think he's absolutely amazing. So they got some really decent pieces on the roster, but I think the negatives just outweigh the positives for the Cleveland Browns. Here's a good topic for conversation, maybe a segment for another day. Who do you think has the better all-time criminal team, the Browns or the Raiders?
Gosh.
At number 24, I've got the Washington Commanders. Now, it was pretty cringe. Everyone was talking about their name change. It's grown on me. I think the Commanders is kind of a cool name. I kind of like it. I don't have a lot to say about them. They have Carson Wentz now. Actually, let's talk about Carson Wentz. So we did a
football team.
It's so much better than the football team. So Carson Wentz last year played for the Colts, and I got some heat for this as well. This is probably of my quarterbacks tier list that I did around Super Bowl last season on stream, when the Kyro cast was unofficial. I put Carson Wentz in B tier, and that was probably the pick I got the most flack for from the quarterbacks tier list. And the reason why I put him in B tier, and I do admit I should not have put him in B tier. The reason why I did that is because he has so much. He's just the most high mountain compared to his low valleys quarterback in the league, I think. I don't think there's any more sporadic, inconsistent, streaky. Streaky is the word I was looking for. He will be so good one game and look like a top 5 quarterback, and then he'll sprain both of his ankles in another game or throw 5 picks. He never gives up on a play, and I respect that. And I think I was just thinking about the high points for Carson Wentz when I put him in B tier, because like if you look at a game like the Cardinals game last season, he looked amazing. That was a late game against. We'll talk about the Cardinals in a little bit, but the Cardinals were really good for a lot of last season, and he had a really great game against them. I don't really have much to say about the Commanders. I got Terry McLaurin, he's good. I really was a big Taylor Heineke fan, literally only because of that super exciting playoff game he had against the Buccaneers a couple years ago. I admit Heineke wasn't a great quarterback either, but I just was a big fan of him after that. So I'm sad to see him not be the starter anymore, because he was just a fun story too.
Based. But McLaurin's going to be good. You already know every other week he's going to make some insane grabs. Be on SportsCenter.
He does some cool stuff.
Chase Young's going to put in work if he's healthy.
All right, let's move on to number 23, which is another decently fun one, mainly because of their strong ties and correlation to the Cleveland Browns, and that is the Carolina Panthers. Now, they were far and away the worst team in the league last year, weren't they? Weren't they the last place team? I'm pretty sure that's the case.
I wouldn't say they were the worst. They weren't good.
I think they had the worst record, if I'm not mistaken. I think the power rankings had them at 32 at the end of the last season, if I remember. Either way, they were beyond atrocious last season. Everyone knows that. I think they were indisputably, at the very least, a bottom 3 team in the league last year. So what has happened for me to put them above 9 other teams? Every time I have gone this route, I've pretty much been burned. Not every time, but most times. But I truly believe Baker Mayfield is going to turn them into anything special, but I think he's going to turn this team around a little bit. Baker Mayfield has shown a lot of times, just in his football career in general, a lot of his time at OU, and a little bit in the NFL. When he gets a chip on his shoulder, he actually kind of goes off. That's just kind of the guy he is. We're going to talk about this when we talk about our Week 1 predictions. I love that they're playing the Browns Week 1. It would be so funny if Deshaun Watson was playing. But either way, I think I'm really excited to see the Panthers with Baker Mayfield. I hope so badly Christian McCaffrey can actually play a full season, because I really think, because they got, what's his name, like DJ Moore. He's a good receiver. I think they've got a couple other good pieces. If Christian McCaffrey...
DJ Moore's pretty good, yeah.
He's really good. If Christian McCaffrey can actually stay healthy through the season, I would not be surprised to see this team maybe being close to the playoffs by the end of the year. Not for certain, and I don't know if there's a great chance that Christian McCaffrey can't stay healthy when you've been so injury-ridden, because the older you get as a running back, the less chance you have to make a comeback like that. So we'll see, and it's kind of like the same thing I said about the Giants with Saquon Barkley. The Panthers, to have any success, pretty much have to lean heavily on Christian McCaffrey. So I'm hoping Baker Mayfield and DJ Moore, maybe the passing game. I mean, Christian McCaffrey is the passing game, but maybe the passing game, apart from Christian McCaffrey, can give him a little bit of relief as far as the workload goes to help him stay healthier. But I do think the Panthers at least will be better than they were last season, so I got them at 23. I can see Baker having a better relationship or like connection with DJ Moore than he had with any receiver in Cleveland. And also just him growing up and getting older. Even in his interviews, you can see he's acting a little bit more like a grown-up, which is what the Browns said they wanted, even though the Browns are... We're not even going to get into it. I think he was easily better than Sam Darnold. I didn't really like how everyone was making it seem like that was actually a battle, because I think Baker is easily better than Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold showed some flashes of being good at very frequent and few and far between points, but I think it's pretty clear that, in my opinion, I think it's pretty clear that Baker is easily the better quarterback, so I expected him to get the starting job, and he did, but yeah. Moving on to number 22. This was kind of a, not that hard, but a kind of hard team for me to place. I'm going with the Miami Dolphins. Now, pretty much the biggest talk about this team over the offseason, obviously, is that they acquired Tyreek Hill, one of the best receivers in the NFL, maybe the fastest NFL player the NFL has ever seen. I absolutely love Tyreek Hill. I hate that he left the Chiefs. I don't know why he did that. That makes the Chiefs a lot less dynamic and exciting, in my opinion. But I think the Chiefs are going to manage it okay, but Tyreek Hill was just an absolute game breaker. They don't win that Bills game without Tyreek Hill literally pulling off magic for the last touchdown in the fourth quarter. So I don't really know why he left to go to a team that's so much worse. I guess just for the money. I guess that's all I can think of. So the big talk has been Tua. And him not having a massive arm. And the whole point of Tyreek Hill is he's so fast he can run past everybody and you just bomb it downfield and get it to him. And so a lot of people have been speculating that Tua's not massive arm is not going to pair well with Tyreek Hill, whose biggest strength is the deep ball, being a deep threat. But even still, with a receiver as talented as Tyreek Hill, and you can get it to him on short passes, drag routes, slants, and then he can just do the rest from there. I mean, that's pretty much what he did in the playoffs against the Bills last season, is he caught... I mean, it was kind of a deep ball. It was like a crossing route, but it wasn't like... It was like 20 or 30 yards downfield. Tua could obviously throw that. And then he just burned the rest of the team with his just out-of-this-world speed. So I don't think in any way Tyreek Hill hurts the Dolphins, obviously. I think if, at the very least, Tua will be better with Tyreek Hill than he would be without him, even if he can't maximize Tyreek Hill's potential. And I think that's what people are kind of talking about, is that Patrick Mahomes being one of the absolute best quarterbacks in the league and having a massive arm as far as throwing range, he was able to pretty much maximize Tyreek Hill's potential, and Tua cannot. But even without that, Tyreek Hill will make Tua better. That's just a fact. So I don't really get all of the negative talk about it, just because. And Tua's also in is this his second or third year now? Either way, I think Tua will upgrade this season from what we've seen in him before with Tyreek Hill and just growing in the league. I think the Dolphins have the potential to be all right, but I don't think necessarily it'll all click this season. But so I got him at 22. About all I can say for him. Also, I think they have Raheem Mostert too. He's another one of those running backs that can't stay healthy, but when he's healthy, he's another one of those guys with absolute game-breaking speed. So they've got guys on that team that can break massive big plays, and they're guys that can do it off of short catches or short runs. So like Tyreek Hill and Raheem Mostert are two of the fastest players in the league. I know Raheem Mostert's not even their starting running back, but they've got guys on the team that can break plays wide open for massive touchdowns. So I think the offense has a chance to pop a little bit if they've got the right scheme and if Tua can get synergy with some of the guys and if they can stay healthy. But even with all that, I don't think they're going to do much this season anyway, so I got them at 22. Let's move on to number 21. This team is one that I think they've obviously been awful for forever, but I think we're going to see signs of them really making strides towards being better, and that is the Detroit Lions. I really like the Detroit Lions. I really do. Not all of it is Dan Campbell, but Dan Campbell, their head coach, is one of the most electric, fun-to-watch coaches in the league. A lot of people were not sure about him with his opening press conference before last season, just because it was really kind of cliche, nitty-gritty kind of coaching, but I really like this guy. I think he truly cares about football and the team, and obviously he's a coach in the NFL. He's going to care about football, but I think he really is like all in. And the Lions just had so much bad luck last season. Like they were losing games off NFL record-breaking field goals and stuff like that. Like they were losing very narrow games to good teams, and they've only been getting better. Now, I think what holds this team back the most, and I truly do, not just hating, is having Jared Goff at quarterback. You saw what happened to the Rams. They upgraded to a veteran quarterback who is at that time thought to just be decent. They obviously the Rams got a lot of other pieces, but they popped and went off. But with Jared Goff, they couldn't really do anything. They made one Super Bowl, but nothing came of it. Jared Goff, I think, holds him back a lot. I think DeAndre Swift is an amazing running back. I think he's really, really good. They got some other good pieces as well. They had a really good draft, I'm pretty sure. Didn't they get, in one of the top picks, they got like this really insane defensive lineman?
They did. They drafted Aiden Hutchinson. I believe they drafted him at 2. They drafted him from Michigan. So
I'm really excited to see what the Detroit Lions do. I don't think they're going to be able to do anything special. I don't think they're going to win their division. I think obviously probably that's going to go to the Packers, but I think they have a chance to be number 2 in the division. I can see them overcoming the Vikings, but I'm excited to see where the Detroit Lions go, where they just had Hard Knocks, man. Not that that means anything, but it's just, there's some hype building around the Lions, and I do think they will continue to improve, at least for the next season or two. You can't really predict teams too far into the future, because you never know what'll happen, what injuries will happen, who's going to pan out, who's not. But I think the next few seasons, we're going to see improvement from the Lions, and I think they have a chance to slide into one of those wild card spots towards the end of the year, but I'm not certain on that, but I think they got a decent chance to slide into a wild card spot if they can really get some things clicking. But speaking of that division and whether or not they can finish in the top 2, at 20, I have the Minnesota Vikings. They've got some really good pieces. They got Dalvin Cook. They got Jay Jettos. They got some really good players on offense. Kirk Cousins is not awful, but he's not great. I'm not that much of a believer in Kirk Cousins. A lot of people are. Go ahead. What were you going to say? He's what?
Kind of awful.
Kind of awful. I'm not a believer in Kirk Cousins, but the Vikings do have some really good pieces. They won some games last year. They've won some games the last few seasons, but nothing special. I don't see that really changing. They've got one of the most dynamic young receivers in Justin Jefferson. They got Dalvin Cook, who's been a consistently good running back for several years now. I don't think he's as amazing as some people do, but he is really good. And they've got some good pieces on defense. I don't have a lot to say about the Vikings. I think they're just going to be kind of a decent middle-of-the-road team again, like they've been the last several years.
Thielen's got to stay healthy. Yeah,
that's another thing. I'm not a massive believer in Thielen. He keeps being a really good receiver, but I feel like, and I'm not like praying on anyone's downfall or anything, but like I don't want him to not succeed or anything like that. But just my feeling is that he's really going to slow down over the next couple years.
We'll have to see. I've always thought he's had pretty good hands.
He has good hands, and that's, I think, what is his biggest upside.
The NFC North is a pretty physical division.
Mm-hmm.
It always has been that way. I mean, they're up north. It's gonna be gritty.
Speaking of gritty,
though,
hey, because we're talking about Justin Jefferson.
Speaking of gritty, but yeah, gosh, that's pretty good. I rate that one. But on a serious note, though,
yeah, the Vikings are another one of those teams that I think have the potential and pieces in place to cause some damage in the league. I just don't think they will. So I'm not saying the Vikings don't have a shot to be a good team. I just don't think they will. But they definitely have the potential to be under the right conditions. At number 19, this was another one of those teams that was really tough for me to kind of find a place for. And that's just because there's a lot of question marks surrounding them. But at number 19, I have the New England Patriots. The biggest question mark has been on their offense. There were some reports in training camp that the offense was really not looking good under Mac Jones and all of them. And Bill Belichick has always been a defensive-oriented coach. And defense wins championships. And Bill Belichick definitely wins championships. So I don't think you can hate on that. I don't really know where they're going to be, though. I want to say as Mac Jones and other players develop that they're going to be a little bit better than last year. But they were kind of just a middle-of-the-road team last year. And I think that's kind of what they're going to be again this year. I don't really see them swaying much in either direction. I don't think the Patriots I don't think they really can be a bad team, but I don't think they can really be a good team either. I think they're kind of stuck at a middle-of-the-road spot. Obviously, any given Sunday, any given season, anyone can pop at any time or just tank at any time. But I just think they're just going to be another middle-of-the-road team again this year. I don't really have much else to say.
One thing I worry about with the Patriots offense is Belichick's going to split play calling duties with Matt Patricia. He goes to Detroit, destroys that franchise, and now he's back in New England, but he's working with the offense. So I'm not sure how that's going to go. I think he's much more of a defensive-minded person too.
We'll see is pretty much all you can do because football is so much of anyone can break out at any time kind of a sport, and the NFL is that kind of a league. Yeah. So it's really hard to. It's really hard to accurately predict stuff. Obviously, you can accurately predict a lot of things, but to predict everything accurately is for example, a good example is Cooper Kupp. No one would have guessed he was going to have the greatest wide receiver season of all time last year, and he just broke out. No one could have guessed that and be taken completely seriously because that's just so much of you can't predict that and be certain of it. It's a hard thing to predict. And there's just a lot of those kinds of things in football, and that's just how it is. You also couldn't have predicted that the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow's first full season were going to pop and go to the Super Bowl and give the Rams a run for their money. There's just those types of things in football that massively impact the league that you can't really predict with complete certainty. All right, let's move on here and go to number 18. This is a team I really was high on last year, and I wanted to be able to rank higher, but I just couldn't for this ranking. And at number 18, Lance, I'm sorry, I've got the Tennessee Titans.
No.
The Titans at the end of last year, I was super high on. They looked really good, and I truly believed they were going to get a good upgrade at quarterback during the offseason because Tannehill, he's decent, but he is holding them back, I think, from being a really good team. So not only that, so they did end up getting a new quarterback who I think is going to be the future of the team, Malik Willis. That is his name, right? I didn't just say that wrong, right?
Yeah, he's Malik Willis.
All right, I wanted to make sure. And they've got my boy, shout out to the Razorback, Treylon Burks. I think he's going to develop to be a good receiver as well. I don't know how good yet, but I think he's going to be a good receiver in the league. But they also lost wide receiver 1 in A.J. Brown. They lost Julio Jones. It didn't do much, but it's just another loss. And even though I think Malik Willis is going to be the future of the team at quarterback, I can't expect a rookie to elevate the team from what it was compared to a veteran in Ryan Tannehill. So, bottom 50%. I'm sorry, Lance. I really wanted to rank them higher. I do really like the Titans. The Titans are one of my favorite teams in the league as well. But I think they lost too much and didn't upgrade enough in the positions they needed to be able to even keep what they were at last year, I don't think. I think in a couple years, the Titans are going to be really good again, but I think this is going to be kind of a step back season as they kind of regroup and try to build that roster back up a little bit. So I do like the Titans. I'm wishing them well, good fortune, all that. But I do think it'll be a little bit of a step back this season. But I think in a couple seasons, they'll be a really good team again. I do think the focal point of the Titans should be to develop Malik Willis as much as possible this year. And Treylon Burks. I think the really good young pieces they got are what they need to focus on. because I don't think this is the year for them. Even though they were the number 1 seed last year, I just don't think they can do it this year. With how the NFL goes, unless they're extremely digressing, I feel like NFL teams usually stick with the veteran as long as they're decent. So I wouldn't be surprised if Malik Willis doesn't start till like halfway through the season. I think he should start now, if not like at least a couple weeks into the season, if not now. But I don't expect him to actually start until like at least 6 weeks. 6 weeks into the year is about when I think he might start, depending on Tannehill's performance.
I give Tannehill 7 weeks.
Yeah,
that's like
not
my
that long.
Whatever prediction. I give Tannehill 7 weeks, and then they're gonna sit in Malik, and he's gonna ball out.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll ball out right away, but I do think Malik Willis is gonna be really good. He had a great preseason. He looked awesome. Let's move on to number 17. This is another team that I wasn't quite sure where to put, but at number 17, I've got the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think, and again, I don't want to hate or prey on anybody's downfall specifically, but I don't think any team with Mitch Trubisky starting at quarterback can be anything more than a middle of the road team. The Pittsburgh Steelers have one of the best defenses in the league. TJ Watt is insane, as well as a lot of their other players. I do really like the Steelers. Just the vibe of that team is awesome. I would like to see them succeed. Their offense has got some decent pieces. Najee Harris, as no one will ever let me forget, is a really good running back. They don't have the quarterback. I just think even with Najee Harris and some of the other players, who even is they've got Chase Claypool. Is he their wide receiver 1? Or is it someone else? Regardless,
it depends on the week. They've got Claypool, they've got Deontay Johnson, who needs to stay healthy, and they've got George Pickens, one of the best blocking receivers I've ever seen.
Pickens is good. So they really do have good pieces. They maybe could be higher, and they have an absolute great defense, and that is what wins championships. I could see them being a playoff team. I don't think they're going to be able to get it done. And it's not just because of Mitch Trubisky, but I think that's the biggest hole that they need to fill, and maybe their new young quarterback.
I see them getting a wild card spot at best.
That's kind of what I'm thinking, just kind of
all three of their quarterbacks. Gosh, all 3 of their quarterbacks are just kind of mid, I guess. I mean, we don't really know what to think about Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
Kenny Pickett was a Heisman finalist. He's from Pittsburgh. He literally doesn't even have to go to a new field. He's basically he's playing on the exact same field he played at in college. So I think he's going to be pretty comfortable.
Heinz Stadium? Heinz Field?
Man, I wish.
I hate that they changed the name, man.
Same.
That was one of the most iconic stadiums in the league, was Heinz.
It was so good.
Sucks.
It was so good. Mason Rudolph, I dislike his quarterback play as much as he likes getting hit with helmets.
Yeah, about to say, he's got to have permanent brain damage from Myles Garrett. Slamming that thing down!
Trubisky.
I like how whenever anyone talks about Mason Rudolph, that comes up every time. Anyone talks about Mason Rudolph, you're talking about him getting slammed in the head with the helmet. That's the most notable thing he's ever done.
It's just synonymous at this point. I mean, I will say this about Trubisky.
Yeah.
Now that he's with Tomlin,
Tomlin is a fantastic coach. Tomlin is a fantastic coach. But again, I think I would say he's more defensive oriented. At least maybe that's just because he's had really good defenses. I don't know if I think he can. I don't know if I think he can elevate Mitch Trubisky. At 16, this is another team that has been really good in recent years, has taken some steps backward, and we need to see how they regroup from that. But at 16, I've got the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson has been an MVP. Teams have, I won't say figured out. I think he's extremely dynamic, and when you have an extremely talented, dynamic NFL quarterback like that, I don't think a team can possibly figure them out, but they can definitely learn how to slow them down. And I think teams have figured out how to slow down Lamar Jackson a little bit. They lost Marquise Hollywood Brown, one of my favorite receivers. I hated that they lost Hollywood. But honestly, I don't know if he was that massive of a piece to lose. I think their offense is worse without him, and I do really like Hollywood, but I don't know if that's really going to be that much of a downfall for them. But I just need to see them actually make a comeback this season. So I have them literally at the most middle of the road team because I genuinely don't know if they're going to pop and be another top 10, top 5 team, or if they're going to regress in another middle of the road team again. I think that's what's happened the last couple of years. Since his MVP season, I feel like they've just kind of been middle of the road. But I want to see them pop back up again. I just don't know if I think they will, so I got them right at the middle.
This is kind of sad because Hollywood Brown, he went from Baltimore to Arizona. He's going to play with this college boy, Kyler Murray, and I thought he's just gonna stay in Arizona, but no, he went from Baltimore to Arizona to the Maricopa County Jail. Don't speed in schools, kids.
He was on the move this offseason, literally.
But no,
He was
I
going
think
so fast. I am on my game today. You know what? The NFL Kyro cast, it's a comedy show. I'm a comedian.
He was moving and grooving. Arizona Cardinals, gosh.
97 speed in Madden and behind the wheel. Speaking of Hollywood Brown and his movements this offseason, at number 15, I've got the Arizona Cardinals. Now, this is a team that, if you asked me, like, week 10 of last year, they would have been a top 5, top 10 team for me. But they just plummeted, just digressed like crazy last season. And I think starting out the year, they're worse than they were at the start of last season. This is another team. I love Kyler Murray, and I love Hollywood Brown, who they have now, and I think he's going to help that team out. I think his connection with Kyler Murray will be better than it was with Lamar Jackson, in part at least due to their connection from college. I think Kyler Murray wanted Hollywood Brown on his team, so I think that's a big reason why they got him. But there's been some drama with the Cardinals this offseason in regards to Kyler Murray, and just he was getting a lot of flack for if he is really committed, if he watches film. I think that was kind of a lame story that kept being thrown around. I think obviously he cares, but that drama surrounding any team, some teams can block it out really well, but if there's actually some drama around the team that's affecting the locker room, it makes success really hard. They started out as easily the best team in the league for like the first half of last season, and then just digressed heavily. Then they got killed in the playoffs it was the Rams, right, that destroyed them in the playoffs. Kyler had that like interception from his own end zone. That was bad. The Cardinals just really fell off towards the end of last year. I don't think they're going to be as bad as they looked at the end of last season, but I don't think they're going to be as good as they were at the beginning of last season either. DeAndre Hopkins is one of the best receivers in the NFL, and he's missing the first 10 weeks, I think. So that's going to be a hit.
6 or 7. I think.
Maybe 6 or 7. I thought it was 10.
I think that's. I don't know. I really hope it's 6 because I drafted him in my last fantasy pick. And I thought it was a steal.
It will be a steal if he can actually play and start producing again.
I think their performance enhancing drug policy is 6 games.
Okay. For some reason I thought it was 10.
It's hard to tell. The NFL suspension protocols are whack anyway.
Either way, I think Hollywood and Kyler in the passing game are going to need to get recalibrated a little bit. Hollywood Brown hasn't had the most consistent hands anyways. He drops quite a bit of balls. But he is another one of those players that has game-breaking qualities, or play-breaking qualities to get big plays. Hollywood Brown single-handedly won a fantasy game for me last year, and I already liked Hollywood Brown, but I will forever love him and be a fan because of that one fantasy game. He literally scored a touchdown, I believe, in overtime, and caused me to win a fantasy game by 1 point with that touchdown. And it was a Monday night game. Yes, that was the Colts Monday night game. Yes. Literally, the last play of the week made me win by 1 point, and I'll forever love Hollywood for that. I think he has the potential to be better on the Cardinals than he was with the Ravens, but partly because I think he's going to have better synergy with his quarterback, and because he's just a young receiver getting older. And receivers, more so than running backs, I think tend to get better before they get worse. So I think he's going to keep developing a bit. But I think missing your massive number one guy like DeAndre Hopkins is going to hurt the offense a lot. I don't think they're going to be as bad as they were at the end of last season, like I said, but I don't think we're going to see them be as good as they were at the beginning of last season either. It's another one of those teams, I think not this season, but the next season, I think they're going to be really good again. But I think this is another one of those teams that's going to have kind of a step backward year as they recuperate, and then they're going to be good the next year. That's just kind of my thoughts on that.
Gosh, you were talking about that game with Hollywood Brown. Listen, if any of y'all are big into going back and watching highlights from past seasons, I remember that Monday night game, I had COVID, and I was sitting in my bed, and I was messaging Kyro back and forth. We were going nuts about that game. So y'all need to go back and watch a game if you're missing football that much. Go watch
that was one of my favorite games of last year. Number 14.
Cardinals.
I feel like this is one that has the potential for me to get some flack for. I actually had this team lower. I had them at 17 or 18. And then the NFL Power Rankings came out either this morning or maybe the last couple days. This team was number 4 on the official NFL Power Rankings before the season starts. Number 4. I could not believe that. They're a decent team. I had them middle of the road, and I think they're another one of those teams that has the potential to pop and be good. But I could not believe this team was that high up. And on another set of Power Rankings from CBS, I think, they're at 15 or 14, kind of where I have them. And people were giving CBS tons of flack, like, how are they that low? But at 14, I've got the San Francisco 49ers. I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, they beat the Cowboys in the playoffs last year. Rip. We're not even going to talk about that. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it.
Screw that referee. Move.
I don't want to talk about it, but I don't know if... I just don't feel like I know that much about the 49ers. I mean, like, I think I know a lot, but I don't know why everyone thinks they're going to be awesome. They got a pretty good defense. They got Bosa. They got Kittle on offense, who's awesome. They got Trey Lance, who I don't know if right away, but I think pretty soon Trey Lance will be an upgrade from Jimmy Garoppolo. And they still have Jimmy Garoppolo as of right now, right? So they still have...
They do have Jimmy Garoppolo, yeah.
They at least know what they have in a backup if Trey Lance isn't panning out and they need to swap him at certain times. I just don't see why people think this is going to be one of the best teams in the league. Am I missing something, Czar? I very well could be missing something. I might be a casual. I don't know why people think the 49ers are going to be that good. I think they're going to be decent. So like I said, I had them at like 17 or 18. When I saw so many people thought they were good, I bumped them up a couple spots because I was like, maybe I'm badly missing something. But I absolutely could not put them any higher than 14. I have no idea why everyone thinks they're going to be so good. Is there something I'm missing?
When you watch Garoppolo play, like...
Garoppolo's trash. He's not trash. He's just not that guy.
He didn't really throw a ton of picks, but honestly, I think they were kind of scared to throw with him.
Yeah.
When you look at his stats,
he's not that guy, pal. Jimmy Garoppolo is not that guy.
It was just kind of a big nothing burger. I mean,
a nothing burger.
He'd throw like 15 passes a game.
That's hilarious.
I mean, he never really threw picks. He never threw touchdowns either. He was just playing quarterback. If
you're watching this on YouTube, please let me know in the comments what I'm missing about the 49ers. Convince me, sell me on the 49ers. Why are they a better team than number 14 if I'm wrong? And if you think I'm right, let me know that as well. At 13, this is a team I actually had at number 9. Before I was reviewing my rankings before the stream today, and I was like, I'm probably jumping the gun on them a little bit. I was really speculating on this team that I have now at number 13. I had them at number 9, though, before I kind of chickened out and drew them back to number 13. But at 13, I've got the New Orleans Saints. I had them at number 9 before moving them to 13 because I really, really believe in the defense. Mostly, the Saints have one of the best defenses in the entire league. I would say probably a top 3 defense, I want to say. That defense is definitely championship caliber. They have the defense, but the offense is kind of the question. Mainly Jameis Winston. He's infamous for being one of the most, kind of like a Carson Wentz almost, but even more so as far as statistical production, as far as really high highs and really low lows. Everyone knows about his 30 touchdown and 30 interception season. He throws lots of touchdowns, but he throws lots of picks. He's another one of those guys that really just lets the ball go, and a lot of times it's not a good decision. But I think in his time in New Orleans, he's gotten better about that. I really do. They've got Alvin Kamara. Is Michael Thomas even going to play this year? Do we know? Or is he just quit football because he's tired?
Who knows?
I don't know.
I don't even worry about Slant Boy anymore.
Yeah, he doesn't even feel like an NFL player to me anymore because he just doesn't play. He got this regular season catch record and just dipped. I think this team, if the offense can pull it together a little bit, I do think they can be really good. I think the defense is awesome. They've got, they now have Tyrann Mathieu. They've got Lattimore. They've got Cam Jordan. Do they still have Demario Davis, or did they lose him?
They do. They still have Demario Davis.
Yeah, that defense is so good, dude. That defense is amazing. And it's kind of like how I feel about the Steelers, how they have a really good defense and a questionable offense, but I think the offense in New Orleans is better than the one in Pittsburgh, and the defense might even be better too. I think TJ Watt is the best player between those two defenses, but I think as a whole, I'd take the Saints defense, honestly. So I think the Saints just have a better team than Pittsburgh. I'm comparing them to Pittsburgh only because I think they are a very similar vibe team. They have a really good defense with an iffy offense, and that's kind of where they're at. I think the Saints have probably a little bit better of a defense and a little bit better of an offense, and I think that is just making them a really strong team for me. I really think the Saints are going to do well, but I will admit that the offense is enough of a question mark that I had to kind of pull the reins a little bit and draw them back a few spots from where I wanted to put them. But I do have the Saints at 13. I think they're going to be really, really good. I could totally see the Saints making a run in the playoffs and like maybe making the NFC Championship.
the Saints always play well at home. Even if they lose home games, they're always close.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about similarities between them and the Steelers. They both always play good at home.
Yeah. And at number 12, I went back and forth on this team so much when I was doing these rankings. In my first rankings, I think I put them right at like 16. And then I eventually moved them up to like 7 or 8. And then I brought them back to 12. This team is, in my opinion, probably the most difficult for me to confidently predict what they're going to be. And that is the Green Bay Packers. This team has so much going on the last few seasons. There's just so much about the Packers going on. There's Aaron Rodgers, who probably the most controversial player in the league at this point. Obviously, there's all the takes about all the junk stuff we're not going to talk about on this show, just because I don't feel like getting into it. I don't think it's fun to talk about, and it's just no point in it for me. But kind of like I've said with a couple other teams, I think drama, even for teams that handle it well, I think drama makes things more difficult for teams pretty much every single time. I think Aaron Rodgers and the Packers have the personality to kind of look past that. I don't think the drama affects them as much as it would other teams, but I think drama, especially the amount of attention that the drama with this team gets, is just bound to complicate some things. Aaron Rodgers, back-to-back MVP, 3-time MVP total, but back-to-back MVPs the last 2 seasons. He's still a great quarterback. I do like the Packers a lot more. The Packers used to be my least favorite team in the NFL, besides another team we'll talk about soon, because of what
Dez caught it.
He did. Dez Bryant caught the football. We're not talking about that, but he did. And then he had that sideline catch in the playoffs. I think 2018. That broke my heart. Not 2018. What year is that? 2016. That's 16. It was Dak and Zeke's rookie year. Yeah. And then Mason Crosby hit that deep field goal. But the Packers just ruin my dreams every year. So I've hated the Packers for a while, but they have grown on me a lot just because I've just grown a lot more respect and appreciation for really good football. But here's where all the confusion with this team is. So there's a controversy. That's what I was talking about. And I think that just makes things difficult on teams. They lost Davante Adams, who is maybe the best receiver in the league, at least top 3. Now, granted, he had Aaron Rodgers throwing to him, who makes him look... Aaron Rodgers will probably make most receivers look better than they are, but even without that, I think Davante Adams is insanely good. I still think without Aaron Rodgers, he's a top receiver in the league. But they lost their best receiver, and now the receiving corps is really young and really unproven. And obviously, reports around the Packers, sometimes you have to take with a grain of salt because people try to add more drama to that team for whatever reason, whatever narrative people want to run. Whether this is true or not, I don't really have a stance, but there is a narrative from a certain group of NFL reporters that want to paint Aaron Rodgers' leadership in a bad light. I think in actuality, if you really ask the players on the team, as of now, maybe not in the past, I think a lot of them do think Aaron Rodgers is a good leader. He just doesn't do it the way a lot of people probably would as far as creating that team synergy and chemistry. But his results speak for themselves, at least his regular season results.
Yeah.
But so I think a lot of people think he's too tough on his teammates because he is openly in interviews talking, yeah, my young receivers are not performing well right now, but they can still get better. And a lot of people are like, wow, what bad leadership. But a lot of people respond better, like their production and performance responds better to negative reinforcement rather than if you just pat them on the back all the time and say, hey man, you'll get there, don't worry. A lot of people need that like kick in the pants to get going, and that's just kind of the guy Aaron Rodgers is. And so I don't think his leadership is the problem either, but their offense is always going to be decent with Aaron Rodgers, and they still got Aaron Jones, who I think is a really, really good running back. I think he is slept on. He gets a little bit of love, but I don't think he gets nearly the respect that he deserves. I think Aaron Jones is a really good running back. Their defense is the best I think it's ever been with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. I think the Packers defense has been pretty good the last few years, but I think this year is the best I've seen that defense. So really it's just their offense with Aaron Rodgers, we know they're going to be pretty good, but it's a question mark on if they can be really good or if they're going to be downgraded from what we've seen the last few years with the loss of Davante Adams and the kind of inconsistent reports on the receivers. I think the first few weeks we're going to get a really good idea of what the Packers are, but until we see that, it's really hard for me to predict what they're going to be. I don't know if this team is going to be flat in the middle of the league, bottom of the middle of the league, or they're going to be a top 5 team. It's so tough for me. I think with what they've got and the players they have, I think there's a better chance I think I'm more leaning towards they're going to be a good team rather than a middle of the road team, but it's just really tough for me to be able to confidently say they're going to be good or they're not going to be good. That's kind of where I'm at. They're the kind of team that I need to see some stuff from them before I really get a good idea of what I think they're going to be.
I think they're going to be good. Postseason, that's going to be a different story.
That's what I was going to say. Lance in the chat said choke team. They have been pretty infamous, not just the last few seasons, unless they're playing the Dallas Cowboys. The Packers are the kings of choking in the playoffs, which is crazy. Like, you go back all the way to that, Seahawks NFC Championship. Like, the Packers just can't close out big playoff games, it seems like.
Oh my gosh.
And I don't know why that is. They have everything they need, and I don't feel like it's anything dramatic that happens. It just seems like their production slows way down in the playoffs for some reason, at least for the games that they lose. When they win in the playoffs, it feels like they win and they're playing really well. But when they lose in the playoffs, it feels like they don't even look like the same team. I'll have a decent amount to say. I mean, I had a lot to say about the Packers, but I have a decent amount to say about the next two teams. So here we go. At number 11, this is a team that is getting a lot of hype built around them. And I hate to see that, of course. Because at number 11, I've got the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia freaking Eagles, man. My least favorite team in the league, for obvious reasons. I gotta admit, though, I can't hate. Their team looks good. Their team looks solid. They have definitely made a lot of upgrades this year. A lot of people think there's a chance they come out of the NFC. I don't think they... and not just because I'm a fan. I genuinely don't think they're going to win the NFC East. But they're going to be a playoff team. They're probably going to be good, man. They got A.J. Brown. Jalen Hurts is upgrading. They got some more pieces in the draft. Their defense is good. Their running game is always solid. And they've been upgrading the passing game. Their team is just well-rounded, man, in all honesty. They're going to be good. The Eagles are going to be good. They're going to be good, man. I don't really have that much to say about them, honestly, just that I got to give them their respect. I hate them, but I genuinely think they're going to be pretty good. They're probably going to be they're probably going to be in the playoffs, and they have a very decent shot to be the NFC East winners. It's obviously between them and the Cowboys. The Commanders and Giants don't stand a chance. But the Eagles, I think, are going to be good. I don't have that much to say about them other than their team is just really well-rounded and improving. Their young pieces are getting a lot of experience and getting better, and they've acquired some proven pretty good pieces as well. And I can't think of any actual hole in that team. Like, they're just really well-rounded. They got Darius Slay, who's a really good corner. They've got Fletcher Cox still. Like, their defense is good, and their offense is good and got better. So, well, I don't know if they were good last year, but their offense was decent and got better, and their defense is still good. So the Eagles are just really well-rounded, and I can't think of any holes in their team. But I do think it's going to be such a close battle for the top spot in the NFC East. So close, in fact, that right next to the Eagles in my power rankings, I have my homies themselves. At number 10, I've got the Dallas Cowboys. Last season, coming back from injury, I really thought Dak was going to have a shot to be at least in the conversation / running for MVP. And he kind of did the first few weeks and then kind of leveled out. We had some really bad losses towards the middle of the year, like Thanksgiving. We had a bad loss to Denver. We just had some bad losses in the middle of the year. I think our offense has taken a hit losing Amari Cooper. Michael Gallup is kind of a question mark on his availability now with his kind of inconsistency with health and stuff like that. Our defense was the number one defense in the league as far as like fantasy points and takeaways go. I think more likely than not that's going to slow down. Micah Parsons, baby, I think is going to be even better than he was last year, and he was second in Defensive Player of the Year voting. I genuinely think... Now, I tend to be more on the pessimistic side with breakout players like that, mainly because Ezekiel Elliott was the best running back I've ever seen in 2016, his rookie year, and has never been close to the same. And my heart's just kind of been broken by things like that, to where I a lot of times don't let myself get excited that players who had an insane breakout year are going to keep it up, but I genuinely believe Micah Parsons is going to be even better than he was last year. I genuinely believe that. Now, alternatively, Trayvon Diggs. I love him so much. I almost bought a Trayvon Diggs jersey last year. He is one of my favorite players on the team. His interceptions are so awesome. He's such a ball hawk. He's got great hands because he played receiver for a long, long time. His brother is Stephon Diggs. Of course, he's got great hands. He is the most, and not just because I'm a Cowboys fan, maybe in part due to me being a Cowboys fan, I think Trayvon Diggs is the most overhated player in the league. And I know it's because he's a Cowboy. I know it's because he got all those picks and was hyped up for a long time. He gave up a lot of yards, and for some reason, I know he gave up a lot of yards, but whatever website it is, like Pro Football Focus, something like that, gave him the stat of losing so many more yards than I think he actually did. I don't think all of them were like yards he gave up, because a lot of times, like whether it's zone coverage or something, or like a safety that didn't play it correctly, those yards go on Trayvon Diggs' stat sheet, at least according to these sites that are tracking it. So I don't even know the stat. Everyone throws around that he gave up over 1,000 yards passing or something like that. I don't know if that's entirely accurate, but I don't have enough evidence to actually disprove that, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't that bad. Like, there were definitely a decent amount of plays this year. I was like, dang, Trayvon, come on, you got to keep up with him. But I digress. I still think he's a ball hawk. I still think he's going to get a decent amount of picks. His whole play style is that he baits quarterbacks to thinking receivers are open and then jumps the passing lane. The problem is when you play like that, there's always a higher chance that you're going to give up plays. I know because I hated playing corner, but I did a decent amount. But I would do the same thing. Like senior year especially, I got a decent amount of picks from doing that same thing, where I will intentionally trail a little bit more off of a receiver so they get the ball thrown to them, and then I just surge of energy, go for the ball. I would do the same thing.
A lot of flex.
And I'm not flexing because I definitely gave up some touchdowns doing that too, that I'm not proud of. That happened to me junior year. There's a really bad one. I completely underestimated the speed of this guy who was guarding a man coverage, and I had no safety help. 8-man league, you rarely get safety help. I was the safety senior year and part of junior year. But when I was playing, if I was playing corner, that meant we didn't have safety help because I was having to go down and move to corner. So there's a play junior year, I remember, that I intentionally sagged off somebody trying to bait that, and I completely underestimated this guy's speed. I got torched, absolutely toasted like I was Brandon Carr, bro. It was one of the most embarrassing plays of my life. I remember because, like, my mom would record a lot of the, like, plays for me, and I would always, that was pretty much how I watched film. If we didn't get film from the team, like from the coaches or anything, if they didn't give us film, I would watch because my mom would just record the games on her phone. I'd watch all the plays. My older brother, T-Kurt96, was sitting next to her at this play, and I just remember watching that playback, and, like, I got torched, dude. Like, he had, like, 15 yards of separation on me. It was so bad. And I just remember hearing Trevor in the playback of the video being like, oh my gosh, Kyle. Like, it was embarrassing. I looked so bad. I can't even remember what team it was. That play, there are a few really low moment plays from my high school football career that stick out in my mind, and that's one of them. Like, I was like, all right, I'm going to sag off a little bit when he makes his cut and try to jump the pass, and he ran a post, and it was ugly. All of that to say, Trayvon Diggs will give up yards more so than other receivers because of his play style, but it is 100% worth it in my eyes because it translates to more takeaways. And one of the most frustrating parts about the Cowboys defense my entire life, I've watched them for over 10 years, is that we seem to never get takeaways, and now we've got a corner who produces last year the most of any corner in the league. So I don't think he's going to be quite as groundbreaking as he was last season. But I think he's still going to get a good amount of takeaways. I think his top 100 ranking, this just turned into a Trayvon Diggs segment. I'm sorry. I just needed to talk about it. I think his top 100 ranking of like 23 or something was a little ambitious of the NFL. But he got so much hate for that. But I think easily, based on what we saw from him, he is one of the best corners in the league. I don't think he's one of the top guys. But I think he's one of the best corners in the league because of his ability to get takeaways. And I don't think that's really going to change. Now, Diggs Island is not a thing. He is not a shutdown corner. He does not take guys out of the game. What he does, his value and his game as a corner, as a defensive back, is to bait and get takeaways, which he has proven that he does. He is not a shutdown guy. He's not going to take a receiver out of the game with just insane coverage, but he's going to get takeaways. That's his game. That's what he does. But with that, he's going to give up more yards. Big Trayvon Diggs rant over. I didn't mean to do all that. Cowboys, their offense, I think it's going to maybe digress. Our running game, we need to see how it's going to be. I don't know how this Tulsa offensive tackle is going to turn out, especially with losing Tyron Smith, which sucks. I'm kind of a little bit nervous to see what happens with our offensive line. CeeDee Lamb, the problem with CeeDee Lamb, I think he can be a top receiver in the league. This is his 3rd year now. He's been really good, and I think he's going to get better. But losing Amari Cooper, not having consistency in Michael Gallup, losing Cedric Wilson, CeeDee Lamb probably is going to get double-teamed quite a bit because he might be our only passing threat some games. And that sucks because I think it's going to really hinder his ability to have a lot of production some games. But I still think, despite all that, CeeDee Lamb is going to keep improving. And I think he has the talent and ability in the right situation to be one of the top receivers in the league. That all goes back to Dak Prescott, who I think is a good quarterback in the NFL, just not a great one. I think he's maybe still a top 10 quarterback, but probably right around the 10 range. He's a B+ to A- quarterback. He's just not one of the top guys. I would still love to see him have a great year and make a run for maybe be in the MVP conversation, but that's only going to happen if the team is really good and he's producing. And I don't know if this is the year for something like that to happen. So no, I don't think Dak Prescott's going to get MVP or anything like that. I don't think he'll probably be in the conversation, but I think it's a possibility. All that being said, I think our defense is still a strong part on the team, which is not something I've been able to say that much in my life. But our offense has a lot of the pieces there that it needs, but I think we're missing a little bit of well-roundedness for us to really be fantastic. All that being said, I'm being negative because I want people to understand I'm not deriding the Cowboys. But so I'm kind of pointing out the flaws so that you don't have to, kind of thing. I still think we're going to win the division. I still think we're going to edge out the Eagles. I don't know how much time this team has left as far as the current build. I mean, okay, I say that CeeDee Lamb, Trayvon Diggs, Micah Parsons, a lot of our key pieces are really young. I mean, we got Tony Pollard still, who's going to be the running back of the future most likely, and he's young as well. But Dak is almost 30 now, which for a quarterback doesn't have to be old. But our offensive line, we're getting younger guys in there, but they're not nearly as great as the guys that were really good, and they're getting older and fizzling out. Tyron Smith keeps getting injured. Travis Frederick has been gone for over a year now. Zach Martin is still awesome, but he's getting older as well. DeMarcus Lawrence has slowed down a lot. He's getting older. We lost Randy Gregory. So we're losing a lot of the pieces that have been really good the last half a decade or so. But we're getting young pieces in there, but the team is going to be completely different. I think 5 years from now, the team is not even going to look close to the same. I just saw Lance that had to put the Cowboys in the top 10. I actually, before moving the Saints back, before I moved the Saints back and I think the Packers back, the Cowboys were at 12 originally, but then but from moving other teams back, they bumped up to 10. So anyways, I said I wasn't going to talk about the Cowboys long, and then we talked about the Cowboys for a while. Mainly Trayvon Diggs, but we're going to talk about them a lot here in a bit. So let's move on now. I realized this was kind of foolish. I had the Cowboys above this team originally, but then I realized I was hating on them too much, sleeping on them too much. At number 9, so a lot of people have them even higher based on what we saw at the end of last season, but I don't think there's a chance they replicate it. At number 9, I've got the Cincinnati Bengals. They've got one of the most exciting young teams in the league. Joe Burrow has proven himself to be a really good quarterback. Jamar Chase was, but he was one of the top receivers last year. Jamar Chase was. They've got some other good receivers as well. Joe Mixon is really good. They've got some good pieces on defense. Their offensive line is abysmal. Now, they have made some moves to improve that, but I am not going to believe it till I see it, that their offensive line is going to be that much better. That's easily, in my opinion, the biggest hole on that team. I think their offense is going to be one of the best in the league if the offensive line can get their crap together. But that was their biggest detriment in the entirety of the playoffs last year, and they still made it to the Super Bowl, but that's still why they lost. I mean, you go back to that 4th down play in the Super Bowl, they lost because Aaron Donald freaking speared Joe Burrow, who still almost made the play. Jamar Chase burned Jalen Ramsey. I think the Bengals are still going to be good. I don't think they're going to be as good as last year. They're still probably going to be a playoff team, but with all the teams in the AFC that are super good, I think they're just going to be kind of a mid to low playoff team. I don't think they're going to have the magic they had last season. But then again, I would not have ever guessed they were going to be nearly as good last year as they were, so I very well could be proven wrong again, but I'm going to keep the Bengals at 9. I maybe could have put them at 8 above this next team, because as of right now, they've proven more than the next team has with their current roster. But at number 8, I've got the Las Vegas Raiders. I had them written down in my notes as Oakland Raiders, and I caught myself and switched it. They're still
I about
Oakland
did
in
the
my
same
head.
thing.
Biggest upgrade for the Raiders. A lot of people aren't sure how he's gonna do switching from Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr, but Devontae Adams is a massive upgrade for this offense, obviously, because he's an offense changing guy. He's one of the top receivers in the league. Not to mention they also got Hunter Renfrow. They've got Darren Waller, who I think he's questionable to start the year, but he should still be there most of the season. They've got decent running backs. Is Josh Jacobs their number one guy, or do they start a different running back now?
Josh Jacobs, I'm pretty sure he's their number one guy, but they played him in the Hall of Fame game.
Yeah, they played him.
Which surprised me and a lot of other people. We were like,
a lot of people said that the Raiders probably don't believe in Josh Jacobs if he's playing that much in the preseason. I don't know what the deal is. But then they've got good pieces on defense too. I think the Raiders, I think number 8 might be a little high. I think if I was revising this, I might have bumped them 1 or 2 spots. But I think Derek Carr is not great, but he's a good quarterback. He's got Devontae Adams. They got pieces on the offense, and their defense is pretty good. I can see them being a good team. I think 8 might be a little ambitious, just because I'm thinking about it now and I don't have that much to say about them. I just know they've got some really good stuff.
They brought in Chandler Jones from Arizona. That was a huge pickup.
That's who moved. For some reason, I was thinking Demario Davis left the Saints, maybe, but it was Chandler Jones was the really good old linebacker I was thinking that moved him. That's what I was thinking about.
Let's hope that his brother John doesn't get arrested in Vegas watching him.
But that's what I was forgetting about the Raiders. I was like, they got something on defense that was a big upgrade. Yeah, Chandler Jones.
They upgraded in multiple facets, and also Josh McDaniels being their new head coach. He's the guy who should be calling plays for the New England Patriots.
Yeah. So
instead of Matt Patricia, but I think offensively they're going to get a huge boost.
In a similar but much different as far as tier league, similar to the Jaguars, they had some real big head coach drama last year, as well as drama in other places. A lot of their players had really big off the field issues last year. The Raiders were it was just a bad year as far as locker room stuff. But I think they've cleared most of that out, and I genuinely think they're going to be a good team this year. They've upgraded a lot. They've cleared out a lot of those problem areas, and I think they're going to be good. At number 7, I cannot believe I have this team as high as I do. I mean, I can when I think about it, but when I was doing these rankings, I had them high up, and I was like, man, when everything that went down with this team happened during the offseason, I did not expect. In my head, I was like, that's a good upgrade, but I don't think it's going to do that much for him. And then I was looking at it, and I was like, holy crap, this team is good. At number 7, I've got the Denver Broncos. When I was really starting to think about it, I realized they got good receivers. They got Jerry Jeudy, they got Sutton, and they've had Drew Lock playing for them. And last year, even with Drew Lock, they were winning a lot of really tough games. And they upgrade to Russell Wilson, who I think is still at least on the edge of being a top 5 quarterback in the league. We can talk about who's who. At highest, I could probably put Russell Wilson and be 5. He's probably not even that, but he's top 10 easily. Really good quarterback, Russell Wilson, obviously. Going to the Broncos is massive. The Broncos, they got Randy Gregory, who, say what you will, he's really good. Their defense is good, and has been for a while. I feel like in their offense now, I think might even be the strongest part in their team with the pieces they have now. With those receivers, and Russell Wilson, the Broncos, I think, are just going to be a good team. I don't know if number 7 is the right spot for them, maybe a little lower. I don't think they could be higher than number 7, probably. I think they're going to be good. They're going to be a playoff team, IMO. But, I didn't think the acquisition of Russell Wilson, in my head, I didn't see that as going to change that much for this team. And maybe that's not the only thing that changes it, but I think just having a great quarterback instead of a poor one, as far as starting quarterbacks go, I think that really is going to take this team to the next level.
Yeah.
Are you not vibing with that?
I am not sold on the Denver Broncos.
See, that's the thing. I wasn't either, but when I was thinking about them in comparison to all the other teams in the league, I was really like, dang, they look good on paper.
In week 1, if they beat Seattle, okay, they beat Seattle.
Well, yeah, no one cares about that. They're going to beat Seattle. It's probably going to be a massacre.
It's going to take
Broncos country.
I do think they have potential. They have potential. I want to see how their receiving core does with Russell Wilson.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I get that
it's not going to be worse.
I get that Jerry Jeudy's an athlete. I get that Cortland Sutton is an athlete. They're both good wideouts. I want to know how they do with Russell Wilson. Will they improve a lot, or will they improve a little?
That's what I'm saying. When they first got him,
have them slightly above middle of the road as of right now.
That's what I'm saying. When they got Russell Wilson, I was like, that's cool, but my gut reaction was, it's just going to be a little bit of an upgrade, not going to change much for him. But as I was thinking about it more, I was like, man, I really think they're going to be a lot better. So that's where I have them. They're another one of those games that's going to be a really fun week 1 game to watch, just because of all the storylines surrounding it. All right, I've been excited to talk about this team. I don't know how much I actually have to say about this team, but I'm just excited to talk about number 6. I've got the Indianapolis Colts. I genuinely think this team is going to be really good this year.
6.
I genuinely think this team's going to be good. I really do. Okay, throw out what I had in the QB tier list power rankings when we talked about it, 8 or 9 months ago. But dude, it's actually insane how much I have realized that I believe Matt Ryan is such an upgrade from Carson Wentz. Matt Ryan, I understand, he's old, he's not what he was, he's not that great, but he is a smart,
Ryan sucks.
Incoming raging fury from Lance. Matt Ryan is a smart, seasoned, experienced veteran who was at one point an MVP and made it to the Super Bowl, say what you will about 28-3, but I genuinely think Carson Wentz is kind of the opposite of Matt Ryan in the sense that I think Matt Ryan is so much a safer and smarter of a player. I don't think Matt Ryan has as high of high moments as Carson Wentz might, but he's not going to have those insanely low moments. I think Matt Ryan is a good leader. I think he's a really smart and decent veteran quarterback. I know I was hating on Matt Ryan on that quarterback tier list last year, but I genuinely think with the Colts he can have a decent year. But Matt Ryan, I'm saying that because he's the quarterback, which is the most important position. That's not why this team is good. This team is good because they got Jonathan Taylor, one of the best, if not the best offensive line in the league, which is great for running games and is great for a pass-first pocket quarterback like Matt Ryan. You want to have a good O-line that can protect him back there and give him time to make a throw. They've got Michael Pittman. Is he still their best receiver? He's not fantastic, but he's good.
Their receiving core is kind of a group effort.
Yeah.
I mean,
they don't have like a standout guy, but it's decent.
I'm totally down with that. If you can share the wealth among everybody pretty equally, I think that's pretty effective.
Yeah.
So.
But the Colts defense is really strong too, right? I'm not wrong about that, am I? I'm pretty sure they are.
Nope, not wrong about that at all. I keep wanting to call him Darius Leonard, but he wants to go by Shaquille Leonard now. So he's still gonna be pretty good. He's good pass rusher off the edge. Somehow he's able to get a good number of takeaways on the ground and through the air, which shows you how good he is.
Yeah. I don't know if this is going to be a hot take pick or not, but I just have a really, I know you're not supposed to say this. I just have a good feeling about the Colts this year. I think the Colts are going to be good. Obviously, I have them at 6.
I mean, if there's any team that's going to contest the Titans, it's going to be Indy. And I think they actually will be pretty close to Tennessee.
It's probably going to be closer than what this list would make it seem, but I think the Colts are going to get it. Going into the top 5. At number 5, a team that I really do love. I think they got a little bit worse, but I think they're still great. At number 5, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. I think Patrick Mahomes is still easily a top 2 quarterback in the league. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. IMO, I mean, not that Hall of Fame means that much if Matthew Stafford is going to get into it and all that junk, but we're not going to talk about that. It's hard for me to say this as much now when they just lost Tyreek Hill. And they had a rough start to the year last year, but I do think Patrick Mahomes is still going to get a couple more rings at least throughout his career. Maybe more than just a couple more. Who knows? If you ask me when they won the Super Bowl, I would have said he could get 4 rings before it's all said and done or something. Now I think maybe 2 or 3. Kelsey's getting old. I know I'm starting with kind of some negatives, but they're still awesome. They've got good receivers still. They just lost Tyreek Hill, who's insanely dynamic. They definitely, I feel like on paper, are worse than they were last year. But I think they've still got consistent pieces that are still going to be really good. Patrick Mahomes is still going to be awesome and do magic. Travis Kelce, I think, is still the best tight end in the league. Some of their areas of their team are improving, but a lot of them, I do admit, digressed. But I still got them at number 5. I couldn't put them much higher because they did lose some pieces. Before the offseason, I probably would have had them at 3. But I dropped them to 5 with what they lost.
Everybody said Tyreek Hill be nothing about Patrick Mahomes. Blah blah blah.
People saying that is stupid.
Patrick Mahomes would be nothing without Tyreek Hill.
Also stupid.
I say we put that to the test. Let's see how Patrick Mahomes does with Juju Smith-Schuster, who we have seen play good football in the NFL in the past.
We'll put those things to the test, but I think we're going to find out pretty clearly. Patrick Mahomes is still amazing, and
I agree.
Tyreek Hill is still fantastic, regardless of if Tua can throw it deep to him or not.
I mean, Mahomes, Ben Roethlisberger. I mean,
what?
Do I need to say anything else other than that? I think Juju is going to improve. So.
Oh, you're talking about with Juju. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Juju.
I think their loss with Tyreek Hill, like, it hurts, but they've patched it up.
I'm not sold on Juju yet, but I do think with Mahomes he can be good. I mean, he was pretty good in Pittsburgh, but I don't think he was as good as he might have been made out to be sometimes. But I do think he's going to be all right. McCole Hardman they've got, who I think is really good. Mahomes is just really good at scoring with whoever he's got. Like, he's had games or seasons with, like, receivers like Byron Pringle or Demarcus Robinson looking like freaking all-pro receivers because of all the stats they're getting with Mahomes throwing to him. But yeah, they got Chris Jones on the defensive line, who's awesome. They lost Tyrann Mathieu, but they still got some pieces on defense. But I don't know. Kind of how I feel is I don't think they're going to start out as slow as they did last season. I think the beginning of the season for the Chiefs last year was kind of a fluke. They got in a really bad slump. I don't think that's going to happen again, but I don't think they're going to be the Chiefs that we've seen at their highest points over the last 5 years or so. But I still think they're going to be a really good team in the league. I still got them at 5. They're going to be a playoff team, obviously. They're going to be in the running for the AFC title, but I don't think they're going to get it. Let's move on to number 4. This is a team that has been rapidly improving over the last few years, and I think is only going to continue to do so. At number 4, I've got the Los Angeles Chargers. I think the Chargers have been doing nothing but getting better recently. I think Herbert is going to continue to improve and really set himself apart as one of the absolute best quarterbacks in the league. I don't know where I would rank Herbert and quarterbacks right now, but I think he's well on his way towards the top 5 as far as quarterbacks go. But he's really good. Austin Eckler is a good running back. Keenan Allen's awesome, and they got some other really good pieces. Hey-oh. But yeah, that's kind of what I got to say about the Chargers. I think they're going to keep improving. I think they're going to be really good. I think they're going to make the playoffs this year. I don't think they're going to choke to the Raiders on a play-in game or anything like that. I think they're going to be a couple steps above that end of the season situation.
One of the best things you can ask for in a quarterback is consistency and accuracy. He's got both. He can extend plays just enough. I mean, he's not like the mobile quarterback that everybody would just love to have in a perfect world, but he can extend plays. He can make stuff happen.
Yeah, but even as the meta and dynamic of the league has changed, I don't think it'll ever change that. I don't think it will ever change that you can win championships with a pocket quarterback with the right scheme and setup. So I don't think having a mobile
Eckler's got to stay healthy.
Yeah, having a mobile quarterback is super nice. But it doesn't, in the right situation, you don't really have to have it. Moving into the top 3. At number 3, I mean, it's not even close because I think the top 2 are easily far and away better than the other teams in the league. Of course, football can swing however it wants to swing. But at number 3, I've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tom Brady is coming back. I, for so long in my life, was the biggest Tom Brady not the biggest Tom Brady hater. I definitely don't hate Tom Brady as much as so many people do. But I was one of those preachers, I was a prophet of believing that Tom Brady was a system quarterback in New England, and I just couldn't have been more wrong. He went to Tampa and has had so much success. I really didn't appreciate how actually great he was. He was a quarterback winning all these rings for the Patriots. So I understood his greatness, but I didn't appreciate how good he actually was as a player by himself until he went to Tampa. Yes, he has a great team, but he just completely transformed. It's kind of like what Stafford did to the Rams. It's what I think a couple teams might have around the league this year. But when you take a team that's pretty bad, or a team that has a really good team with a decent to bad quarterback and put a good quarterback on there and watch them elevate, exactly what Stafford did to the Rams is what we saw Brady do to the Buccaneers just before that. Which is crazy. Obviously, they got a good team. They got Julio Jones now, who, he didn't do anything in Tennessee. But Julio Jones is, in my opinion, this might be a hot take. I would put Julio Jones as maybe the 5th best receiver of all time. That's a segment for another day. But Julio Jones is up there for me. I love Julio Jones, one of my favorite players of all time. I don't think he's the big cornerstone for the Buccaneers or anything, but him and Tom Brady is going to be light years better than him and Tannehill. So I think that's true. They still got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. They got Leonard Fournette, who's not amazing, but is a good running back. They got a great defense. The Buccaneers defense is insane.
The Bucs won a Super Bowl with a bunch of misfits and Tom Brady. They got all the washed guys and nobody wanted anymore, and they went and won a Super Bowl.
Lance says, bro, Julio's washed. I'm not surprised Lance says that because he's a Titans fan, but the amount of difference between Tannehill and Tom Brady is enough for me to think Julio Jones is going to be a lot better this year than he was with the Titans. Even if he's getting older and only digressing as far as raw talent and skill goes, just because getting older does that to you, he's going to be so much better with Brady than he was with Tannehill. You can't convince me otherwise.
Titans get all the washed players. Way to just diss your team, Lance. Come on.
But yeah, I think the Buccaneers are going to be good. I think they're going to be in the running for the NFC, of course. Maybe come out of it, but I don't know.
It's possible.
It's definitely possible, but I don't know. But I think the top two teams are far and away the top two teams, and I am not even kidding when I say I have switched my number 1 and number 2 spot back and forth probably 5 or 6 times since I originally made this list last week when I was getting ready for the show. I keep going back and forth on these top two teams because they're both so good. I don't know. I keep going back and forth.
Who you have here at 2.
It'll be clear when I reveal number 2 who number 1 is.
Yeah.
It's so hard for me to pick between these two. It really is. But at number 2, I am going to go with the Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams at number 2. And I'm going to put them at number 2. I think they probably still have the best roster in the NFL. And they upgraded it too, I'm pretty sure. They lost Von Miller, but they got, who did they just get? Wagner, yeah. They lost Von Miller and got Wagner. So they lost one insanely good veteran linebacker and got one who I think arguably is probably hasn't digressed as much. Von Miller, I wouldn't say he's like digressed, but he's not Von Miller on the Broncos. And Wagner's not going to be prime Seahawks Wagner, but I think he's better than Von Miller right now. They play different games. But golly, that team is so good. Cooper Kupp had the best receiver season probably of all time last year. I don't think he's the best receiver in the league, but he's still amazing, obviously. The Rams are just so good, dude. So good. And there's so much of a case for them to be number 1. I do think they probably do have, on paper, the best roster in the NFL. I mean, I talked about their defense. I didn't even talk about Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, all those guys. But I do think they probably have the best roster in the NFL. I think they are going to be... They're either... they're the Super Bowl champions. It can't really get better. I think they have the chance to be about the same as they were last year, but I do think if I had to guess, if I had to predict, which is what the whole point of this is, they're going to take a baby step backwards this year as far as success. I still think they are my favorites, obviously, to come out of the NFC, but they very well could. But I'm going to say they don't win the Super Bowl again this year. If they do, that'd be crazy, and they have the team to do it, so I wouldn't be shocked in any form. I would not be shocked if they do. But I got them at number 2. Lance says, personally, I would switch number 1 and the Rams, but they're both really good. That's what I'm saying. I think on paper, the Rams are better. But this is my prediction for the year. I just think everything is going to shape out with the number 1 team being a little bit better. That's just what I'm predicting. I promise it's not just because of the blue and yellow, but the Rams genuinely feel like the 2017 Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant. That's just what it feels like. They just feel like a super team. They genuinely feel like a super team. It's insane. But I do have at number 1, the Buffalo Bills are my favorite team to be the top spot in the NFL. On paper, I think the Rams are better, but the Bills are insanely good as well, and they are going to have a chip on their shoulder this season. Because that playoff loss to the Chiefs was devastating. And I'm not going to blame it only on the overtime rule, which has changed now. But they know they had every right to win that game. And I genuinely do think they would have beaten the Bengals. And then they're a better team than the Bengals, who were one possession away from winning the Super Bowl. I genuinely think the Bills very well could have won the Super Bowl last year. Not just because of the overtime rule, but just if they happen to edge out against the Chiefs. If they didn't let Travis Kelce get in the field range, if they didn't let Tyreek Hill break off a 60-something yard touchdown run.
Gosh, that was hard to watch.
If they didn't choke, if the defense didn't choke at the end of the fourth quarter and in overtime, the Bills, I truly believe, probably between the Rams, Bengals, and Bills, I think with the mojo they had at that time, I think the Bills would have won the Super Bowl if they edged it out against the Chiefs. So I do think on paper, and maybe we'll see in reality, the Rams will be better than the Bills. But I do have the Bills at 1. Josh Allen is easily my favorite pick to get MVP this year. If I had to bet on somebody, I would bet on Josh Allen to get MVP. I really would. Their running game is probably the only part of their team that's a little bit questionable for me. I like Singletary, but they don't seem to like Singletary that much. He doesn't get that much usage. The running game doesn't get used that much. Stephon Diggs, I had him on fantasy 2 years in a row, and he never seemed to really do that much for me, but he is one of the best route runners in the league. He's got great hands. Stephon Diggs is amazing. I think his production in fantasy, if we're talking about fantasy, is because being one of the great receivers, he's getting heavily guarded. On defense, they've got Von Miller now, who's awesome still. They've got Tre'Davious White, one of the best corners in the NFL. I think he's a top 3 corner. That team is just good, dude. That team is
Jordan
just
Poyer
solid.
as well in the secondary.
Yeah. Dude, yeah, there's so many people I haven't even named, but that team is just good. Like, they're so solid. I don't think on paper they're better or as good as the Rams, but they're just good, and I think they're the team that's going to bring it together and be the best team in the league, in my opinion. Yeah. That is my rankings of every single team in the NFL from 32 all the way to 1. It was a very long segment. I'm going to try to shorten that up as much as I can for the clip out, but let's just go through everything again really quickly. In last place, at number 32, I've got the Houston Texans. At 31, we've got the New York Jets with the MILF Hunter himself, Zach Wilson. At number 30, we've got the New York Giants. Shout out New York football and just New York sports in general. At number 29, we've got the Seahawks, who just probably downgraded the most of every team in the league. They very well could be the last place team, but I got them at 29. At 28, we've got the Jaguars, who even though they're at 28, I think they're going to be a step better than they were last year. At 27, we've got the Atlanta Falcons. Not much to say about them. They're just kind of in a bad spot. I love that color scheme, though. At number 26, we've got the Chicago Bears. I think they're another one of those teams that's going to be a step up from last year, but still not good. At 25, we've got the Browns. Surrounded by controversy. They don't have their starting quarterback for half the season. Just a lot of weird things with that team. I think they're just going to be a step backwards. I think the Browns just don't have it. I don't know when they will, but they don't right now. Number 24, I've got the Commanders. I do think Carson Wentz, even though he is not good, is a little bit of an upgrade at quarterback. There's just not a lot to say about this team. I like the new name, though. Number 23, I've got the Carolina Panthers. I do think Baker Mayfield is an upgrade. I think Christian McCaffrey has the chance to stay healthy, and DJ Moore is really good, so I think the offense is going to be a lot better than what we've seen. And I think, again, they're another one of those teams. It's not going to be massive, but I do think they're going to be a step up from what we've seen recently. 22, I've got the Dolphins. They acquired Tyreek Hill, which is a massive upgrade. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you think Tua's going to be able to take advantage of Tyreek Hill's abilities or not. They're still going to be a lot better than they were. At 21, I've got the Lions, another team that I think has been really improving, and I think will continue to do so. I think they got a real chance to be the number 2 team in their division if they can get past the Vikings. I don't know if that'll happen for sure, which is why I have the Vikings at 20. At 19, I've got the Patriots. I think they're the team that I am confident they'll be a middle-of-the-road team. They're not going to be dynamic. They're not going to be awesome, but I don't think they will be bad. I don't think they could be bad. At 18, I've got the Titans, a team I really like. I love Treylon Burks. I like Malik Willis, their new quarterback. I don't know how much he's going to get to play. I would like to put the team higher, but I think they've just lost too much. I think it's going to be too much of a step backward year. I think the year after this season, they'll be good again. Maybe a couple years after this season, but I don't think this is the year for them. I got them at 18. At 17, I got the Pittsburgh Steelers, one of the best defenses in the NFL, but that offense is just not enough for me to be able to say they're going to be much better than this. Mitch Trubisky at quarterback, not great. They got a good running back in Najee Harris. They got a great defense, but I don't think they have enough on offense to be that good of a team. Middle of the road. At 16, I've got the Baltimore Ravens. They were really good a few years ago and have slowed down a lot the last couple of years. They lost Hollywood Brown, who I don't think is the biggest loss, but it's at least taking away one of those dimensions of your offense with a super fast play breaker. Lamar Jackson has been an MVP, but teams, I don't say a dynamic quarterback like Lamar Jackson has been figured out, but teams have definitely figured out how to slow him down. And I just need to see something from the Ravens for me to want to put them higher. So I got them right at the middle of the road because I just don't really know how good they can be anymore. But I don't think they're bad. I think they're good still. I just don't know how good. At 15, I've got the Cardinals. They were the best team in the league the first half of last season and then plummeted so badly. I don't think they're going to be as bad as they were at the end of last season, but I don't think they're going to be as good as they were either. And so I've got them at 15. They acquired Hollywood Brown, which is good, but they don't have DeAndre Hopkins for a good chunk at the beginning of the year, which is going to be painful. And then they also lost Chandler Jones, which is a hit to the defense. I still think they're going to be pretty good. I just think they're going to be not as sporadic, but consistently more middle of the road this year. At 14, I've got the 49ers. A lot of people have the 49ers way higher than I do. I don't really know why. I don't really know how they've changed that much over where they were last season, which they were just a decent but not great playoff team last year. So I have them at 14. I think they're going to be good. I just don't think they're going to be that good. If I'm wrong, let me know why. At 13, I got the Saints. I think they might have the best defense in the NFL, at least a top 5 to 3 defense. They might have the best in the NFL. I won't say for sure they do, but they have a very good defense. Their offense as well, I think, is better than people are giving them credit for. I think Winston can be all right. I don't really know what their passing game, even with that, though, is going to look like. They got Kamara, though, who has been great at times and been not that great at other times. He's had some injury problems. I think their offense can be pretty good, and I think their defense is amazing. So I think the Saints are going to be good. I think they will be a playoff team most likely, maybe even make a run. I'm not sure yet. At the 12, I got the Packers. This was the hardest team for me to confidently place, I think. But I do think more likely than not, they are going to be pretty good. They will. Regardless, even if they play not as worse, but if they play towards the lower end of where I think they could play, I still think they're going to win that division. I don't think the Vikings or the Lions are going to take it from them. I think the offense is going to be not as good as it has been recently, but I still think with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, Aaron Jones at running back, they can be pretty good. I'm just not sure what they're going to do with that young receiving core, how they're going to be able to develop it. And their defense, I think, is the best Packers defense I've seen in a long time. Their defense is really strong. At 11, I got the Philadelphia Eagles. Not as much as some of the best teams, but they have one of the most well-rounded teams in the league. I can't think of any real holes they have. Their running game is decent with good depth. They got pretty good receivers now. Jalen Hurts is improving. They got A.J. Brown, and their defense is really solid as well with Slay and Cox and them. At 10, I've got my Dallas Cowboys. I think we've got some issues and some problems, but I do think we're still going to edge out the NFC East. I think our defense is not going to be as electric as it was last year, but I think Micah Parsons is going to improve, and I think our defense is still going to be solid. Our offense took a hit with our receiving core, but I still think we're going to find a way to have a good passing game, and we've got that really good, maybe the best running back duo in the league, maybe not, though, but we got a really good running back duo with Zeke, who's super physical and good for getting short gains whenever you need it, and you got Pollard, who's got that speed to break some plays open. I still think we're going to be good. It's going to be tough on if we can pass the Eagles for the NFC East title, but I think we're going to be a playoff team either way. And I think we probably will win the NFC East. At 9, I've got the Bengals, the previous Super Bowl runner-ups. They got a really electric young offense that is improving. I just don't know if they're going to have the same magic they did last year. And I don't know. I want to see them be good again. I just don't know if they're going to be able to perform with as much success as they did last year, but I still think they're good. At number 8, I've got the Raiders. They've acquired, they're the ones that got Chandler Jones. They got Devontae Adams, 2 major upgrades on both sides of the ball. I think Derek Carr is going to be good. They got Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs is a good running back. I think this team's just going to be really solid. Another one of those teams that I feel is pretty well-rounded. At number 7, I got the Broncos. I didn't think I was going to have this team that high, but then, man, they really just, when I was looking at it on paper, I just really felt like the Broncos have a good team. The receiving core has never had a quarterback anywhere within the same universe as the talent level and experience and NFL IQ as Russell Wilson. So you're going from Drew Lock to Russell Wilson. That's such a massive upgrade. And then you got Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton, who I think are going to improve so much with Russell Wilson. And they got a good defense. And even with Drew Lock in them last year, they were winning some tough games. So I think the Broncos are going to have a good year. Maybe not 7th best team, but I still think they're going to have a good year. And number 6, this might be a hot take pick. I got the Indianapolis Colts. I know Matt Ryan is not amazing, but I do think he's a considerable upgrade as far as how that team will play from where they were with Carson Wentz. They have, in my opinion, probably the best offensive line in the league. They've got Jonathan Taylor, who I would not say is the best running back in the NFL, but he had the best season last year and is definitely a top running back. He is amazing. And their defense is pretty good as well. And number 5, I've got the Chiefs. I think they're on paper, they've downgraded from last year, but they also had a really bad start to the season last year. I don't think they're going to have that much of a slump again, but I think the ceiling for this team has been lowered a lot with the loss of Tyreek Hill, loss of some pieces on defense, but I still think Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and them are going to be a great team. They're going to be in the running for the AFC. I don't think they're going to get it, but they're going to be in the running. Maybe they won't even win their division because at number 4, I've got the Los Angeles Chargers, who have done nothing but improve a lot over the last few years, and with Justin Herbert, and Eckler and them on offense. I got good pieces on defense. I think they got Khalil Mack now, which is insane. They got Derwin James. This team keeps getting better and better. I think it's going to keep happening. I got them as the number 4 team in the NFL. Before we've seen anything this season, that's where I've got them. At number 3, I got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tom Brady out of retirement like that. It's coming back. They got Julio Jones, who, yeah, he sucked in the Titans, but he had Tannehill to Tom Brady, a massive jump in quarterback play. And you know Tom Brady was able to make Antonio Brown work for a bit there. And Julio Jones, if you're talking about just personality-wise and team synergy-wise, Julio Jones is absolutely what you want in a veteran receiver and the opposite of Antonio Brown. So I think Julio Jones is going to be able to really help that team, even if he doesn't produce that much on the field, just from a veteran receiver standpoint. Even though that receiving corps doesn't really need help, because you got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin in them. They've got Leonard Fournette, who's not a great running back, but a pretty good running back as well. And then that defense is just awesome. Levante David, all them, bro. That defense is great too, in addition to that really good, well-rounded veteran offense. But the top 2 teams, I think, are far and away the top 2 teams in the league. The mountaintop is clearly, in my opinion, the Bills and the Rams. On paper, I do think the Rams are probably better, but as far as my predictions for this upcoming season, I'm going with the Rams at number 2, who's got freaking Bobby Wagner, by the way. But at number 1, I got the Bills. Josh Allen is my pick for MVP. I think their passing game is going to be great. They don't utilize Devin Singletary in the running game as much as I think they should, but I think their running game is still decent. And their defense is arguably the better part of their game, even though it didn't look like it towards the end of that Chiefs playoff game. The Bills' defense is amazing as well. But those are my picks for all of the teams 32-1 in the NFL. Let me know what you thought. What's your list? Did I have some really bad picks or some really good picks? Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.